Last time on Code Geass.
Can you just cut to the walk-off? I think that pretty much summarizes the video. Oh, last time, episode 22, Code Geass. This is kind of tough to talk about. There were only 6 wheels. I didn't think about this until just now with this review of episode 22, but I hope that you're fine with me bringing it up. I'm surprised in his testing of Code Geass, of Geass, he never tried to break the Geass.
And tried to figure out how to undo anything?
Right. Like, he's smart. He's intelligent.
How his mind was always,
tested the
how can
girl always going back and like, how long does it last? But never was like, how long does it last? Okay, she's the how long does it last control. I'm going to do it on someone else and then have them do marks on some other side of the school and then like, I have to try to break it.
His tests were always the how can I use it,
right?
Not how could it be countered by
He didn't want a full understanding of it.
Or is it, well, so there's two things. Is this done out of arrogance, or is it just not showing us something because it never went anywhere? I feel like it might have touched
very loose.
Right. I feel like if it was that they probably would have had him address it then, if it was something he'd thought.
Even in a sentence.
Yeah, because the other things he had done, like the fact that it is light-based and can be reflected, he'd touch on that in a single sentence. So it's like, so the things he had done, he definitely did talk about. So, yeah, no. He didn't,
This is why I critique shows. Everybody getting after me. The world is against me. I feel like a teenager again. The world is against me. Mom, have you seen the comments on YouTube? They don't like my wheel joke.
Oh, and in 2 more episodes after this one, we're gonna have that tally of total wheels. Don't forget that.
I can't wait till we do a wheel tally on the next show. Can we change the YouTube channel to be the wheel reactions?
Jonathan Counts Wheels. This episode of Jonathan Counts Wheels.
Every episode's literally 4 seconds. It's a 1 second intro, 1 second outro, and 2 seconds of me looking at you and saying a wheel number.
Great. So what do you think is going to happen? We got 3 episodes left.
They're going to play a big joke on us as the viewers, and it's going to all be a dream.
Oh, that would be so fear-inducing.
It'd be terrible. Or sometime earlier in first episode, second episode, when he falls into the semi-truck, he gets a concussion and then he wakes up in a hospital.
He wakes up out of a coma. Like,
you'll never believe this terrible dream I had. Plot twist, it's actually real.
It was all a delusional fantasy from the beginning.
Could be like the end of Fight Club, where he is just kind of trapped in his own reality. Not Fight Club. Although
I was gonna say where he topples credit card companies so he can be with what's-her-face.
The book is different. But we're not talking about that.
We're talking about Code Geass.
We could do book reviews though. Do you guys want to see book reviews? Code Geass.
Code Geass. Let's jump into episode 23.
Episode.
I, Eugenia Libertania, bid all of you within the sound of my voice to heed the following command. Seek out any Japanese you can find, and please kill them. Leave not a single one of them alive.
That's all we need for that teaser.
Euphemia has betrayed us here.
At least with
all
sorrow.
Units descend upon the stadium. Grind the Britannians to dust.
I wonder what the stats are on that sword.
Oh, he's not dead.
Dare you
Why?
over the hopes of our people? You Euphemia.
Aha, so there you are, you ridiculous royal puppet.
Oh, you were on that island, weren't you?
Yeah, now suffer the hand of vengeance!
Wait, I'll deal with her.
Interesting weapon to use. Puppeteering.
Now what, Zero? Do we take her prisoner?
There's no point. Leave her.
I have to kill them all. These Japanese people, they have to die. It's jammed up. I have to hurry. Oh, I thought you were one of them. So, I was thinking we could run the specially administrated zone of Japan together. Oh wait, Japan?
Yes. I would have liked that. You and I together. Yuffie!
Lelouch, why?
Farewell, Yuffie. You may have been the first girl I ever loved. No! Suzaku!
Why now of all times?
Get out of my way!
Ah, damn it!
Please, you have to save Yuffie. Do something! You mustn't let her die!
Equality? You can shove that straight up your administrated ass! You lured us into a death trap! You just made the biggest mistake of your lives! You got that? That's Britannia burn! Don't screw with the Japanese!
How wonderful to finally meet you.
This girl, she's a relative of Suzaku's.
Zero, are you prepared to work beside us in what's to come?
The opposite. From this point on, the 6 houses of Kyoto will be under my control. I won't hear any objections. All other paths of survival for you have now vanished.
We should inform Viceroy Cornelia.
Don't worry, I'll be taking care of that. Will she last until we reach the Bureau?
I'm afraid not. I'll contact Prince Schneisel then. Excuse me.
Suzaku.
Yuffie! Yuffie, I have to know. Why did you issue that order at the stadium?
Order? What are you talking about? Never mind that. Suzaku, you're Japanese, aren't you?
Yeah? Yuffie!
No. I mustn't. I can't even think such a thing. No, please. Suzaku,
Yes, Yuffie.
the ceremony. Did it go all right? Is Japan okay?
Yuffie, don't you remember?
People of Japan, and all who were oppressed by the Empire of Britannia, long have I waited. I waited for them to come to their senses. But that hope was betrayed by an act of barbarism that can only be called genocide.
How about everyone that was there? Are the Japanese happy?
Never forgive you!
She's a murderer!
She's a filthy witch! Liar!
Euphemia is the symbol of Britannia's hypocrisy. A murderer cloaked in the flag of a nation.
How was the ceremony? Do you think I did okay?
I hope that bitch burns in hell! We're finished with your lies!
Death to them all!
Yuffie,
The special zone is a great success. The Japanese people were given back their home, and you did it.
Oh, thank God.
I hereby declare our independence from Britannia! But don't take this to mean the resurrection of your fallen nation. We will not turn back the hands of time! The new Japan we go on to build shall be one broad enough to accept all peoples, histories, and ideologies, where the strong shall not reign over the weak, and it shall be called the United States of Japan!
He's done it. This is the birth of a nation.
How strange. I can't see your face anymore. Keep going. To school. I had to stop before I had the chance to finish.
Yuffie, you can still go yourself. I know. Why don't we go to Ashford Academy together? The student council is so much fun. Yuffie.
You have to do it. For me. Okay?
Please, Yuffie. No, don't go!
Suzaku. I'm so happy that we...
Dear God.
Area Fukushima, Yako Squad, en route to Ibaraki. Area Tama, continuing with barricade construction. Area Hamamatsu.
You plan to assault the Tokyo settlement?
Yes. This is the best chance we'll get.
Don't worry about it. Your Geass has no effect on me. You know that, don't you?
That's true, isn't it? With my Geass out of control now, I can never see anyone. Huh? Yes, Nunnally?
Hi, Lelouch. I was wondering, do you suppose I could talk to Yuffie again? I was thinking the three of us could go to the school festival together. You see, Millie said they were organizing another one, since everything got all messed up the other day. So I was hoping we could go to the new one together, too. Oh, I'm sorry. I know you don't want us meeting ever again. But I thought maybe, if there was some way you and I could maybe see her just one last time.
Nunnally, haven't you heard the news?
Oh, well, the radio cut off mid-broadcast earlier. Why do you ask? Did something happen?
Of course not. Everything is just fine.
I mean, at this point, why even lie about it to her?
Right.
Maybe she'll be deaf in a bit.
All right, so you can't switch off your Geass. Are there any other changes you've noticed?
Not really. It's just... Yuffie. She tried to resist the Geass. And my orders. I was wondering if my power had weakened. But I think such a malignant command was simply against her nature.
And so?
I guess that's all. It was something.
We have our contract. I promise to stay with you till the very end.
Yuffie, I just don't understand. Why did you give that order?
Shall I tell you? How do you do, Suzaku Kururugi? You may call me V2.
Princess Cornelia!
I put the Glaston Knights on standby. Place all our forces on the outskirts of Tokyo. We can end this. We just need to take down Zero.
Kill Cornelia and the day will be ours. You all have your orders. Now be ready.
Your Sumeragis.
Thank goodness I made it in time. That was so mean of you, the way you headed off to battle without me. I've been a huge fan of yours ever since your big debut.
Lady Kaguya, I thought the heads of the 6 houses remained in Fuji.
I followed after you, so I could watch my future husband fight. Huh? Well, once you win this battle, you'll eventually need a wife, won't you? I mean, I know your identity is a big secret and all, but you're gonna need somebody as your public face, right?
Really? You believe we're going to win this battle?
Of course! I am the goddess of victory, after all.
I'd be lucky to have you then. Unfortunately, I've already made a contract with the devil.
Huh?
I have no room in my life for deities right now.
Hear me, Britannia! This is Zero! A rebel against oppressors who abuse their power. We will wait until midnight. You have till then to surrender to me.
You can still turn back, you know. Your actions here will affect more than just Area 11. You and this entire world will be steeped in war.
I'm aware of that. And yet all the same... Yuffie? How could that be possible? No, it must be an imposter.
You got 2 minutes.
Lelouch, it's me.
Suzaku, why are you calling me now?
Lelouch, are you at the school?
No, but I will be soon.
I see. I called because there's something I want you to tell everyone for me.
Yes, and what would that be?
The sky. Make sure no one looks up at the sky.
What?
Lelouch, is there anyone you could ever hate so much that you'd actually want to kill them?
There is, yes.
I used to feel that sort of thinking was unacceptable. That unless you followed the rules, killing someone was just murder. But now, it's hatred that's guiding me. I'm fighting to kill someone. I'm going to become a murderer in the skies of Tokyo. So please...
Embrace your hate. Just think of Yuffie. I made my own mind up long ago. I have no intention of turning back.
For Nonali, you mean?
Yes. I have to go now.
Thank you, Lelouch.
Forget about it. I mean, you and I are friends after all.
What the hell?
These hands of mine have been dirty for a long time now, Suzaku. Your coming to face me now doesn't matter at all. Hell, I welcome it even. I mean, of course, you and I are friends. Perhaps this is what I've longed for ever since that day.
Doesn't even care anymore.
The destruction and loss of everything. That's right. Destruction always comes before creation, and for that goal, even my own conscience must be cast aside. The only path left to me is straight ahead. Now then.
There's something that a lot of anime that I have seen anyway does that I've always found really profound in the way in its storytelling. And a lot of them is the way that it handles the downfall of, I guess, everything. The way everything just falls apart into chaos and a hell of sorts. A lot of different anime stories I've seen do it better than others that I've seen, I guess. It's a sort of story arc I don't see often in American stories. Or it could just be happening in stories that I don't happen to be reading or watching or anything. But a little shaky and numb. The continuation of events from last episode. As we were setting the stage for a big something. What do you got written? I have quite a few things.
The first girl that he loved, I thought he loved his sister.
Well, Yuffie's older than his sister, so there was that period of childhood where Nunley wasn't born yet.
He said, "You might have been the first girl I loved." That's almost a confession of not loving his sister.
Interesting.
Or his mother.
Well, it's also a question of, obviously, people use the word love to mean different things. Like,
I know.
You know, loving your wife versus loving your children versus loving your neighbor versus loving your friend.
Or loving chocolate.
Yeah, or loving chocolate. Like, people use the word to mean many different things, which doesn't help the conversation of the question of what is love. Baby, don't hurt me. I'm sorry. That was terrible.
Whose job is it to have the jokes?
Well, clearly it's mine, because you're not talking much.
That are corny.
Okay.
C2's loyalty is interesting with her. I will not betray, or I will not leave Lelouch.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that she's talking to Marianne is interesting.
Yep. I have that note of that's who she's talking to.
In the mind's eye or whatever she's doing.
Mm-hmm. When Lelouch shot her, Yuffie, everything leading up to and during the action, he'd been resigned with numbness over the whole thing.
Geass might be able to be fought with love from within a person. It's a question, not necessarily a definitive thing, because of her reaction. It could just be trauma as well.
Mm-hmm.
When she's talking to Suzaku.
Mm-hmm. I know some people have criticized as that being really corny and stupid, that moment about her love kind of overcoming it. But in my mind, I think that there's something about it. I don't know what though, but I mean, like in general, we tend to compartmentalize different things. In
PTSD.
Well, not to mention that, yeah. But also her memory of the whole ordeal, like everyone else that's been Geass, their memory's completely fuzzy about it all. But I mean, like, she obviously has some intimate affection and attraction with Suzaku, and for everything that is, you definitely see the person and treat them as something more than people you don't treat that way. So I don't know. I mean, if that kind of compartmentalizing has anything to do with that, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just more questions about Geass that, without a character testing out how it works, and then the writers putting something in regarding like, this worked, this didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's simply speculation, lest future episodes tell me differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've only got 2 left for this season. There's a person at the Japanese gazebo that we don't know.
Oh, that was Chinese.
Oh, Chinese?
Yeah, I think we saw.
I didn't see a flag.
In the last, it was either, I don't know if this recently, it might have been last episode, it might have been this one. We'd seen the elite council of people both in the EU and in the Chinese Federation watching the initial broadcast, and the clothes he was wearing in combination with that, he's Chinese.
Okay,
but the world is watching.
Hard to get that on a first viewing, but that's fine.
It's also I could imagine, I don't know this for sure, but I'd imagine the architecture of the gazebo for a Japanese audience might have, I don't know. That's me speculating.
Right. Well, all we saw was 2 pillars and a table and a mountain range, and the mountains that we've been talking about are in Japan. Therefore,
yeah, fair enough.
How
I don't know that this is me speculating.
Right.
I'm speculating maybe a Japanese audience would have known that was a Chinese.
So Suzaku lied to her. So his whole character's been changing the entire episode. To tie it with that,
knowing that she's probably gonna die, there's that essence of a white lie and letting the person die in peace versus, giving them the harsh reality of it and then them being devastated as they go out.
Is it true peace if there's no truth?
That's a good question. That is.
Can you?
Would you have the heart?
Can you have
if you were a he was? Would you have the heart to say, you told everyone's dead? would you have the heart to tell her that her dreams were undone?
I am not the person to ask about this. I get scolded about being emotionless a lot, so
okay.
I don't think that you want to know the answer to that question.
Well, you just gave it in that. Yes, you did.
I didn't say it.
Well, then we'll speculate.
You can speculate.
Okay.
You're probably right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know if I could, but we're different people, you and I.
Accurate. You're over
if
there.
If it wasn't obvious, we are not the same.
He doesn't have my jokes.
Yeah, mine are much better.
Enough. Silence. Okay, so I have a question about Geass.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going down the comments that I made. Okay. Getting into the fact that I can be insensitive accidentally, can blind people have Geass put on them?
Well, we've seen with Lelouch and Mao that their Geasses work differently. So I think in Lelouch's case, because his requires direct eye contact, I'd say no.
Right.
You could argue that it depends on the type of blindness because it's obviously light. It travels through light into the eye and then from the eye to the brain. So in that sense, you could say it depends on the person's blindness. Like if it's because that nerve is broken, then it wouldn't work, you could say. And if it's connected, it could. It depends entirely, there's reasons. You could argue that it could work. But I would say practically, in Lelouch's case, no. In Mao's case, I'd say yes.
Well, his is...
Because his came about very differently. His manifested differently.
Right, and he doesn't really...
We see him for 2-3 episodes, so I mean, it's not...
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I just thought, I was like, can he use Geass on Not that he would.
So what do you think?
But I was thinking that he probably couldn't, based on the way that his worked, and then I forgot about Mao. They forgot about Dre. During war, death means little, lest it's close to home.
Mm-hmm.
Because leading up to this, Cornelia has killed thousands of people without a blink.
Yep.
With nothing.
She was righteous in doing so.
Yes. So the question is, it's not a question, it's a comment, an observation, how even in war movies where, or the news, like there's a desensitization to death when it doesn't affect us.
Mm-hmm.
That it's twofold. It's like, yes, that's a good thing because otherwise every time someone died, people would be upset. But it's also like, have we caused it to go further than it needed to by...
The death and destruction further?
No, sorry. The desensitization of death with video games and movies and content and whatever, because think back to the early 1900s where you didn't get news about overseas or anything.
Yeah.
And it was just like your local area, so death meant more because, Tom, who ran the local butcher shop, if he died, well, that's where I went to get my meat.
Yeah, your worldly news about war and stuff came through, the big thing of New York very slowly, basically. And
So, is it okay that we have kind of desensitized it a little bit? And then is it not prideful, is it selfish, arrogant, entitled? I don't know. Is it wrong to only be affected by death when it affects you? Poor sentence structure, but whatever. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like most of my answers to complex things like that, I'd say it entirely depends on a case-by-case basis. Because in some sense, I think like you need to be desensitized and maybe uncaring of things that happen throughout the world because of your inability to do something about it. And like a lot of things, a lot of people can spend too much time worrying about things they have no control over, which is obviously a bad thing. Now, if it's something that you can actually do something about, like if you're in a position to do something about something, then I think caring about it is definitely something that is good. So
yeah, I think that's probably the consensus I've reached. I just wanted to pose a question.
Yeah, it's like a lot of things. It's individual context matters.
So I made a deal with the devil.
Yeah,
I didn't, but
I have no room for deities in my life.
Beyond redemption is basically what this is talking about.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that is the only people who... Well, that's not an entirely true statement. We have the belief that we can get to a point in our lives where we are beyond redemption. Therefore, I may as well steep further into destruction because there is no turning back.
And we talked about this in an earlier episode where we tied it into sunken cost in some way too.
Yes.
And about how being in that place of despair, you don't see the, oh, we should change things. It's the, well, it was either all for nothing or I drive it into the ground are my two options because they're without hope.
Right. Yeah. So could we say that sunken cost belief is a fallacy entirely? Or is there some merit to it? Like, let's play opposites. Is there some merit to him running it to the ground? Just to see what happens.
Well, I mean, he kind of puts a little bit of a, you could argue flimsy, but he coats it with this silver lining justification of destruction comes before creation, which the level of truth in that, I would say again, entirely based on context of the individual circumstance.
Yeah, because if you, like, to just use an arbitrary example, like, if you mine raw gold, you have to smelt it down and destroy its raw material to create it into absolutely anything else.
Yeah.
But from a more philosophical, bigger principle belief, I would say that it's false.
It in a mythological level, almost any creation story that I can think of, things are pulled out of a chaotic everything, and then forced into some type of structure, order.
Can I use this analogy? It's basically like deity in most mythos takes an arrow of order and fires it directly into chaos, and then
something comes out of it. Yeah.
Chaos,
which, I mean,
orders itself.
You in some way sort of said something about this in some way where you could argue then that that sort of line from Lelouch would put him, like, sees himself as a god figure even, which...
I would call him a demigod because...
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know of any mythos off the top of my head, and I'm sure there are some somewhere, that the ultimate god in a mythos has to destroy to create. Because an ultimate god creates from disorder.
Yeah.
Just like we said.
So
they put order
so he's creating the disorder in a sense to that. A demigod would then have to create the disorder to make
because
order.
They're demi.
Yeah. So, okay,
That's my perspective on it. Demigods.
Fair.
Yeah. Suzaku calls Lelouch from Yuffie's phone.
Which, I mean, like, if it...
I'm a little stretched on this one.
I mean...
He's got a phone. Like, why would that caller ID come up?
There's an obvious narrative punch that they're going for there.
I get it.
Yeah.
But
well, what do you think of the actual conversation that was had?
Right. So the ideology swap, where Suzaku has had to change his entire belief system through his journey, which is interesting, and basically has become a disciple, if I can use that word, of the same principal belief that Lelouch has. So in actuality...
He'd said, like, I've been driven by hate for 7 years, basically, is what he'd said.
In actuality, it's a unification of their friendship to desire to destroy, to create.
If something Cecile said, like, I don't know, episode 6, 7, or 8, sometime way back then, was that if your friendship continues, it will not have been mere coincidence, it will have been predestined.
I believe that she said that because you're telling me that she said that. Not because I remember it.
Yeah. And so our two brothers, if you will, have gotten to the same page in some sense, and they have been predestined to destroy each other, you could say, or attempt to destroy each other.
I have a secret to tell you about my thoughts on this show.
A secret? Do you wish it be known?
Yeah. There were 14 wheels this episode.
Of course it was.
I'm so happy right now, you guys. There's one more note that I have that's on a serious note, but I wanted to shake it up.
Kaguya. There's Kaguya. Who? Yeah.
Oh, no,
You're pointing up the note above this one.
Ha! I thought you were okay.
Got him.
Guys, that was good. Come on, that was good.
Yeah. So Kaguya, the goddess of victory, he has denounced the goddess of victory in favor of the devil, whom he had already made a contract with, and which comes right into V2.
Pause.
No,
so the
I will not let you speak.
Of victory. This is an interesting. So she's got to be a demigod because
I mean, this in most societies, the emperor has been like their god. But sorry, go on.
If the goddess of victory can't overcome the devil, what kind of a world are you living in?
Well, is it that the goddess can't overcome the devil, or is it our character Lelouch's rejection of the goddess for the devil?
Right. So that's a fair crossroads. However, if the goddess of rejection truly has the power that the goddess of victory.
Yeah.
I think I said rejection.
No. You said reject or whatever. Go on.
If the goddess of victory has the power that a god should have, we talked about moments ago that a god can fire an arrow of order into chaos and create. They don't have to destroy first. Then a god at that stature, not a demigod, should be able to be so powerful to bring back someone who's made a contract with the devil. Theoretically. However, the point and premise that you have put forth, I agree with, that if the person chooses, because this entire show is about the circumventing of free will.
Yeah.
The overpowering of will. So theoretically within the world, the goddess of victory should be able to, if they're really a god, overpower the will of the devil.
But Lelouch has been given the power of the king, Geass, manifested in the form of undoing everyone else's will for his own. So in some way, his will has become the supreme will in some way, shape, or form.
Right. But that makes him also a demigod. So, because demigods, like we see this in many mythos, Roman, Greek, etc., Norse, where they fight each other because they're equal. They're equal playing. Yeah. Marvel, the Maiar, like when Gandalf fights the Balrog, they're both Maiar. When you're at the same level as a demigod, there's basically a sparring match that goes on.
And Gandalf
and
won.
You can't overcome them
in that
truly.
particular fight, the reason Gandalf came out victorious because he called upon a higher power from outside the two of them.
Correct.
To
Which
win.
is the question, not the question, but the principal conversation of demigod versus god. Because if they're both demigods, then yes, the goddess of victory can't overcome the power of another demigod.
Yeah.
They can have a sparring match. Now, granted, it's probably just a title, like you said.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but within the world, like this is a conversation because I'm realizing this lately. I've got to sidetrack for just a second. Where I'm going through Harry Potter for the first time. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but I'm realizing that the way that I'm wired, be it to my own purpose or cause or whatever,
with all of the goods and bads with the way you're wired.
Yes. I am a world builder connoisseur, for lack of a phrase, whatever. And so the reason, and I'm realizing this because I'm going through Harry Potter, which is, we can have that conversation a different time if you comment and really want to hear about it. But when I'm going through a story, because Christopher asked me a question last time or the time before, like, why do you like story? Why do you, with all of your critiques that you give, why do you engage in story at all? Like, because the surface level perception is that I just am some sort of arrogant child who, like, well, there's problems with every story, period. And it's like, well, no. Well, yes, but no. Like, okay, fine. But I realized about myself, because life is a journey, not a destination, Ralph Waldo Emerson, that I'm simply a connoisseur of, and I have this strong desire for worlds. So, like, this is a need that I have when I'm engaging with stories. I need your world to have the least amount of flaws as possible. Granted, we're writing a story that we've been working on for 7 years. There's going to be flaws in it, and I'm going to pick them out as well. But I have this innate desire and need that if I'm engaging in story, I need it to not have flaws.
Yeah, it has to be deep. It has to be rich with everything, and it all needs to be coherent and form together into something that's
saying it doesn't have
tangible.
It's not allowed to have flaws is not a proper phrasing. It's I need it to have depth and weight and authenticity and consistency.
Yeah.
Like, which surface level saying it can't have flaws is like, you have to look past the word flaw and say, like, I need it to not have inconsistencies, which is different than not having flaws.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of that said, what was I talking about?
I don't know. We went down this road and
I had to deviate.
We were lost in the woods without a destination on this journey.
Swim over to the other side of the bowl.
He's saying he's a goldfish. World consistency and the need for it and flaws in stories. That spark anything?
No, I know why I said that. Told about Harry Potter.
Yep.
What were we talking about before that?
Gods.
Demigods. Yeah, I guess it's just all that to say the reason I bring up critiques, and also kind of like, if you've made it this far to episode 23 and you're like, man, this guy's just kind of an idiot because all he does is critique and doesn't allow the show to be a show, which some of you have said. Sorry, I've looked at some of the comments.
You're allowed to. I show them to you.
Well, yes, but you told me not to. Anyway.
Well, I told you not to go freely because of potential spoilers. If there's not spoilers, I send them to you.
Yeah. So I guess I'm confessing or admitting or letting you know something about me that I've realized about myself based on conversations that we've had, based on going through a story that I've never gone through before. Like, I've never read Harry Potter, and I'm 30 years old. Like, so I grew up in the time frame in which that was available and didn't partake because I like Lord of the Rings better and a variety of other reasons. So the reason that I have these critiques or thoughts or observations about these things that seem inconsistent is because I have an innate need for consistency in story and in people's lives. This need is not just story, though. You can attest to this. My girlfriend can attest to this. People in my lives can attest to this. I am highly consistent. I'd say 97%, because I have times where I'm like, know that I'm being inconsistent, but I'm being selfish and don't care. It's very minimal, but like, you can attest to the fact that I'm a highly consistent person.
Yes.
For better and worse. And so that need is not simply story-based and critiquing. It's, I call people out with like, no, this is the rule that they said was supposed to take place, so this is the rule. And sometimes it's the person who made the rule and they're like, well, no, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you said, and if you're going to make me follow the rule, then I'm going to hold you to the standard like a lawyer to the rule, period. And then they get mad at me because they aren't allowed to break the rule that they've set in place. And I'm like, I told you not to put the rule in. I told you this is dumb. Or maybe I didn't, and because I didn't have that authority, like, but I'm consistency is important to me. So all that to say, like, this is not an apology. This is like a revelation for myself and for you guys that the reason and moving forward, like, that's not going to change because that's just part of who I am. That I need consistency, and I will call it out if it's not there. And it's not that it's not that I have not enjoyed this journey, because we're kind of I'm just kind of like talking about the fact that I'm like,
we're kind of at that penultimate stage of the story.
right. This is episode 23 that we just watched. There's 2 episodes left. Like, I've enjoyed the journey. Just because I'm critiquing something does not mean that I do not enjoy it. It's the way, the thing is that way that I enjoy things is like, yeah, I'm going on this emotional journey, and maybe this is my reaction to like the things that we've just watched, and this is how it's coming out, because that's the way that I function, and I don't have this like, I don't mean to be offensive, but like gooey, sappy, like, oh my God, they died, attachment with the characters. Like, I know that I function this way. I functioned this way when my friend and mentor died in 2012. Like, yes, I cried a little bit, but it's like I don't function the same way that other people do, and I'm like realizing that as I grow and age, and that's fine. It's not bad. It's just different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a major tearjerker myself, but I mean,
I love crying.
They've clearly seen it this episode very much, but I completely shut down and kind of pull away. And even though, at least this particular thing, I was making a very conscious effort to not do that. It's still, and this does not lie. I have the worst poker face.
Right. And like, you can tell based on these 2 episodes, the one before 22 and 23, like, you can tell that I've been touched by it. It's just not the same as most people.
Yeah.
It's different. It's not wrong. It's just different. It's just like, if you're highly touched and you absolutely love this show, I've not been meaning to attack you. It's simply I've discovered that I have a need. It's not a desire, it's a need. Like, it's part of how my soul is written. Which goes deeper than like, I want ice cream. But I would eat ice cream right now.
His soul has been written to want ice cream.
Need to go to the gym, guys. Anyway. But this is like a journey. This has been like, I've enjoyed watching the show. I've enjoyed helping make these videos. I've enjoyed hanging out with Kristopher. Like, but the way that I enjoy things is that if there's not consistency, part of me has like a very innate issue with that, but it doesn't mean I haven't enjoyed it.
If you would say, okay, here, let's do this. Let's finish this little thing off, since we kind of hit everything.
We didn't do that.
Do we want to do that now, or? Oh, well,
whatever you want.
Let's do. Okay. We'll get to that then after this. So we mentioned. So let's talk about V2 first before we talk about what I was going to say.
Okay, this character exists. V2.
Oh,
we met them.
Okay, and they have shown up and are going to, exposition dump on Suzaku, is what it seems like.
Yes, which happened just before his phone call.
Yes, just before his phone call. You have any more thoughts on that?
I think we pretty much covered it. Like, if I was V2 and I told...
I just realized I forgot the point I was going to bring up.
Not the only one. I'm not the only one.
Oh, I remembered now. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you with that outburst.
Oh, I'm not the only one.
Oh, well, any more on V2?
Oh, I thought you were going to make a point about V2.
No, I was laughing because I forgot the point. I said we were going to set aside and talk about V2 first.
Oh, no, let's talk about that.
I've re-remembered the final point.
V2 exists. V2 probably told Suzaku everything.
Before the phone
We'll find
call.
out more next episode, or the one after, or next season, whatever.
So, on the note of criticisms, what is probably 2 things? Answer in whichever order you'd like. What is maybe if there's a paramount inconsistency you've seen so far, knowing that we're basically only halfway into the show, right? There's still a whole second half. But with what you've seen so far, what to you seems like the paramount inconsistency? And what it seems to be the thing that you have enjoyed or liked or think that has been done the best? I'd be curious to know those 2. Knowing there's still a finale to this season and a whole other season.
I'm writing them down so I don't forget them.
Yeah.
I would say that the best thing that this show has done is, and it didn't happen until the later episodes, but they threw an entire wrench in the main character's drive. And I really love when you have an out of the blue, just baseball bat to the face.
You're talking about the insertion of the Shirley arc then, and what happened there with the death of her father, or?
Well, no, they've done this a few times.
Okay.
Yes, Shirley's one
Okay,
instance.
all right.
Like, okay. I'm talking most recently about Euphemia being like, we're giving you what you wanted. And then he's like,
oh, okay. And then, oops.
oh, this is not good.
Oh, so before that even.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like, oh. Well, I mean.
Turns out that's not what I want.
Right. And so taking your main character and really I really love in stories where, I'm gonna give a spoiler on book 5 of Harry Potter. Everyone's probably already read it. Sirius Black dies.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Things happen in life that literally knock you on your ass. Main characters need to go through that to have change. It can be that they got worse.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. That's part of being human, which sucks sometimes.
The hero's journey through the underworld.
But you need to knock them down. And the sooner you do that, I think, because I have a very high resistance to emotionally attaching to characters, I think that makes them more relatable.
Yeah.
So the sooner it happens...
That's why we root for the underdog in stories.
The sooner it happens, and we relate with them, we're like, oh, that's happened to me. Not being able to circumvent people's will and like causing havoc in the world, but I've been knocked down before. So that I really love that part of this show. I think it happened a little too late.
Okay, yeah.
So the way that I watch shows and animes is I'll give it 3 to 4 episodes.
Yeah, that's
to hook me.
A lot of people say something of that vein, like, yeah, let's watch for
the pilot is usually terrible. The pilot usually doesn't hook you.
Death Note had a good pilot, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the times, though. Like, the pilot's like, here's about 6 characters that you'll meet. Some of them, but they just don't do a very good job.
It really makes me wonder. I feel like, actually, you could probably say, I've said this about this show, you could probably say it about a lot of anime, that the format is probably the worst format for the types of stories a lot of great anime wants to tell, for that reason, that you need that a lot of people feel the need to watch up 3 to 5 episodes to know if it's going to be good.
It's the issue of being I don't mean this offensively.
It's like doing too much with what you have, or like just
it's
pacing.
Too much backstory. It's amateur writing. We run into this.
This is the thing, like this. It's this large amount of exposition is definitely a carryover from novels, where you can spend 50 pages at the front of your book basically setting up the pieces to start your story, which a lot of classic literature is written that way.
There's a French director, and I can't remember his name right now. You'll have to look it up for me. I think it's Jacques Godot, maybe, who said there's a beginning, middle, and end to a story. You just have to pick where you want to start.
Right. Well, this is why a lot of people advocate for the in medias res, where you start in the middle of the action.
Right, because it hooks you quicker.
Yeah.
This book that I love by Brandon Sanderson, Warbreaker, he introduces the magic system, a badass character, and a talking weapon that the character won't talk to.
Sounds like an anime.
Right, but this is the prologue, and then the exposition happens for like 15 chapters. That you're like, okay, I know that I need to engage this, but I want to meet the character that I met. Like the hook is at the beginning. You have to give me the hook at the beginning, and then it turns out that the beginning is actually kind of like the middle of the story, which is fine.
Here's the thing, though, to go against that is, do you think the punch of Lelouch, granted, you're not the most emotionally attached, you just admitted, but do you think the punch of Suzaku's hand in Shirley's death in that whole arc would have had the same weight if we started there, for example? I don't think so. Because of the time that we've had leading up to then to connect with them is an important facet of that type of punch, growing and attaching with the characters, and the more time you have to attach with them makes their failures and downfalls more painful.
I don't think that would be the hook that I would start with.
Okay, yeah.
Because that specific one. So it's about which hook you pick.
Yeah. Well,
right? So like,
I know, like, for me, this particular show, obviously a lot of the way that they set it up was that one of the hooks that they kind of did to springboard, it was obviously, well, it turns out Lelouch is a prince and he's doing this whole thing. But there's also then, I feel like the main one that's supposed to have driven the story forward was him unveiling himself as Zero and him taking on and introducing the persona of Zero to the world. And that was supposed to be sort of one of the big main hooks. I know for me personally, it was the one that you definitely said, oh, I'm really engaged now in the sense of like learning the whole Shirley, the introduction of the Shirley arc with the death of her father and Mao and him having to, you know, basically brainwash her into forgetting everything. For me, that was the big, the really, really big hook for me.
I think the Mao arc should have been introduced earlier because it's part of the magic of the world. And so like introduce that he gets the magic. Like the first few episodes, fine. We're attached, whatever. We're 23 episodes in. There needs to be these moments where you, like Mario Kart, where you drive over the arrows and you get acceleration. You need to go back and give me another hook to keep me going. Like you can't just rely on the emotional growth of the characters.
Yeah.
So if one of the mysteries, because mystery is something that we thrive on as humans. Like they say curiosity killed the cat. Well, we have that saying for a reason. The curiosity that we feel as humans of wanting to know and understand. So whatever your through line of mystery is going to be, you need to sew that thread back in key moments of the story.
Well, for me personally, when I was first watching it, obviously rewatching it's a different experience completely. But I know for me, a lot of the mystery and questions that they constantly sprinkle throughout the series regarding C2, not necessarily about Geass, but C2 specifically as a person, has definitely been something that had pulled me along.
That's one of the mystery through lines.
Yeah.
There's like a few of them though. There's Geass exists, C2, his origin, like. Whatever ones are weakest, you need to go back through and revise your story to strengthen. Not to say that you have to have a foreshadowing at every step of the way, but you need this timeline that has all these threads, and then you figure out which ones are going to have a bigger pull to keep people around.
Well, I guess here's another one. The questions of what's going to happen when. Like if we get a decent understanding of what Lelouch's desired trajectory is, there's what's going to come up to stop him on. This is always something that we can never know about until it happens in a story. But like, what is going to happen when he gets into the same space as Cornelia? What's going to happen when he gets into the same space as the Emperor? Are any of these going to happen? Which ones will? Which ones won't? How will those moments play out?
I got to answer your second question.
Oh, yeah.
The Paramount inconsistency. I think I brought this up before, where we're watching the reaction of the other royal family. They're not making any conscious decisions on our part because the narration is from Lelouch's point of view. But to say that this world exists and no one else is as smart as this 17-year-old child is stupid. It's this inconsistency of the world. Right? Like, yes, it's the narrator.
Is that an inconsistency of the world, or is it just a gap from narrative perspective?
That's fair. I don't know.
Okay.
It's like when you can't know because it's the narrator. It's the perspective that we're given. But you said, what is the paramount inconsistency? In my opinion, and this gets back to my need for world, which is why, and I've mentioned this.
The fact that you're only seeing the world. Mostly, you get sprinkles of it from other people, but you're seeing it primarily through Lelouch's perspective then.
Right.
Okay.
And this is something I told Kristopher recently, is like, I don't like limited perspective in story. And then that kind of led me through this thread, this thread line of like, oh, I'm a world building enthusiast.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on elsewhere.
So
it's one of the reasons that I love Lord of the Rings, where they're like, this person's group is going and doing this. And then it's like, oh, and this is happening in Mordor. And like, oh, then Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli are doing this. And you're like, oh, wow, the world is a clock and it's moving.
Let's be sure we're clear on terminology here, though, because if I'm not mistaken, Lord of the Rings is still told from a limited third-person perspective. So it's not necessarily the quote-unquote limited perspective. It is the limited number of perspectives.
Sure.
Whereas like seeing those, like you said, getting all of these other things, they're more perspectives. It's not an omniscient narrator, but you're getting it.
Okay, yeah, so that's fair. That's a fair like redefining of
or defining to make sure we're So
no,
okay.
Yes. So basically, I guess my paramount inconsistency for me is that we have not dove into anyone else's perspectives, and I believe most stories are trying to create a world and they don't do a very good job.
So in some ways,
Alice in Wonderland is a different story.
So I mean, obviously, there's a bunch of different things that obviously I really, really like about this show. But if there's something, I'm curious to explore more. Obviously, once we get more into the show, it'll be much easier to point out a lot of these things. But I'm curious about like what you just described. You could say this is sort of like a difference between. I want to make sure I use good words for this, but like the difference between, say,
use the good words.
I get like the difference between an ideology versus, I guess, I'm gonna have to buffer this with maybe an adjective, a proper religious perspective or proper spiritual perspective versus an ideological perspective would be that an ideological perspective is kind of embodies just this tiny little thing and doesn't address the all of everything else there is. And obviously seeing this primarily through Lelouch's perspective puts on a ideological twist, which brings up good points, but also completely disregards others that should be brought up in entertainment is entertainment. So, I mean, you'd say in a serious context, is it a serious context? It's entertainment, it's a story. So, I mean, there's that. And I'm curious because I haven't actually taken a hard look with that perspective on this story, but it is something I have been curious about. So, no.
Episode 23, folks.
Episode 23. We've been setting up pieces for a big something. You want to close it out here, or do you want to speculate how our ultimate series of events will go this season?
They're gonna retie in the Emperor a little bit stronger, but I'm sure that he'll stay a mystery until season 2. We'll learn a little more about C2 and V2, but there will be strong through mysteries to keep you coming back for season 2. So you're not gonna really you're gonna get a conclusion about a little bit, but it's probably 15% of all the mysteries that are existing in the world right now.
Give us a few specifics.
I think Cornelia is going to die. I think that I really don't remember that guy that was in the orange vial. He's
Jeremiah from the beginning earlier.
Is
in the
that
series?
Jeremiah? Because it looks like him.
Yeah,
but anime.
He's the only character that has had cyan hair the whole series. Sure.
Okay, yeah. Okay, because I thought it was like Jeremiah the whole time. Because I was like, I think that's Jeremiah, but. Man, anime characters. I have anime face blindness.
This is why they color code them for your convenience. Okay, it's an anime thing. They're color coded for convenience.
Well, all right. So Jeremiah's back, sort of.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bartley wanted to get him to the homeland because he's his new test subject of some kind.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
So, what's the girl who was living with Ogie's name?
Valletta New.
Valletta
has conveniently been wearing violet before she lost her memory.
Yeah. And then she started wearing cyan.
Well, she started wearing that yellow sweater, I think.
Was that yellow? That was cyan.
It's probably
anyway, you'll find out when you edit this. But
in the bed, she's wearing nothing.
Okay.
Right, we're supposed to be closing this out.
I think things are gonna happen.
Things are gonna happen. Truer words have never been spoken.
I think that you guys will like this episode best. It has the most discussion. Well, not
until next time when the things happen, the things will happen. But not until then. Come back for that. And thanks for watching.
I think that the show could be taken apart more philosophically. Like, entertainment-wise, it's good.
Oh,
it's fun.